My name is Andrea Derler. I'm the Principal of Research and Value for Visier.
My name is Kathi Enderes. I'm the Senior Vice President of Research and Global Industry Analyst at the Josh Bersin Company. We're a research and advisory company for HR professionals.
So over the past 7 years, the gender pay gap has narrowed by about 17% or 3 percentage points, which means that women on average now earn about 15 cents less to the dollar that their male employee counterparts earn. When we adjust for manager roles, that takes into account at least job position, the difference is a bit smaller. So we know that female managers, for example, earn about 10 cents less to the dollar than their male counterparts in manager roles. But it really hits home when you consider the actual dollar difference that it can make for a woman to earn more. So we made a little calculation for a woman with a base salary of $60,000. For example, she earns now $1,800 more per year than she used to at the same salary in 2017, which with a cumulative inflation rate that was between then and now about 23%, that's like not even close to enough, and clearly hits women a lot more than men.
Overall, it's going to take us 25 more years to close the gender pay gap, assuming we will continue as we have progressed in the last 5 or 6 years. So 2048 would be when the overall gender pay gap would be closing. And if you think in 25 years, I won't be working at that time probably anymore. My girls, my children, my 2 teenage daughters will be working, and hopefully they can benefit from it. But that's a long time, right? So it's almost mid century. For the managers, for the female managers versus male managers, it's closing a little bit faster. 2036 is when the gender pay gap for managers will be closing. So still not very quick, still a long way to go. The community data was very, very impactful for this report, because without those data points, we wouldn't be able to quantify how big the gap is, the gender pay gap is, or forecast when the gap will be closing. And those were some of the most insightful and most interesting insights that we got from this study. So it was critical to get this very broad data set of real life pay data, rather than just maybe inferred data or maybe projected data or anything that we might not be able to validate. So it was critical to get those data points that Visier has from actual companies, actual salaries, actual pay gaps. Organizations shouldn't just care about pay equity and closing the pay gap because they have to. And also not just because it is the right thing to do. So both of these are good reasons, but I think there's more reasons that we saw in our research. First is risk mitigation. There's really high-profile lawsuits that are sometimes won by basically the women that sue the companies. There's like really high-profile ones of over $200 million, for example, where Google had to pay and other companies. So that risk mitigation is also important. How the social, kind of the social image is of the company, brand image, those kind of things really matter too. If a company is in the news for not caring about pay equity or not paying women in an equitable way, that causes a reputational damage, of course. But then also it's easier to attract and retain people if you're known as an employer that cares for pay equity, and not just for women, by the way. There's many, especially the younger generations, they really care about that, and they're really looking for a company that shows and demonstrates its caring for pay equity overall. We saw in our study, in our previous study, that pay equity is actually 13 times more important to employee retention and satisfaction than how much you pay people. 13 times. So in other words, you can actually save a lot of money of just paying people on the top of the line if you just make sure as an organization that you distribute the pay in an equitable and fair way. Employee experience enhancements, of course, too, and then broader innovation results as well. companies like Unilever, Accenture, for example, that have been known for pay equity results can show and demonstrate that they have higher innovation outcomes, better employee performance, and better business performance, because when you have more diverse teams working together on business problems, everybody wins. So there's more than just legal and regulatory compliance why organizations should care about that. So how to get started with pay equity? Well, first you need to think about, why are we caring about pay equity? What's the why behind it? And that's really important, because if you're not clear about why you care about that, is it just a legal thing? Is it just a compliant thing? Or is it something broader that aligns to the company's mission or vision and values? Establishing that upfront is really important. Then you need to find out how you get leadership support. And when I say leadership, I don't just mean HR leadership, but business leadership support, and bring together a cross-functional team across HR, but then also legal and finance, technology, other departments basically all have to work together to identify what the gaps are, and then also how to mitigate them. And then you can start with your pay equity audit. It's usually not just a straight comparison of women versus men, because when you want to do a full pay equity audit, you really need to adjust for different locations, different responsibilities, different skill set, different seniority, different spans of control, all of that. So the pay equity audit is usually a very complicated regression analysis, like those kind of things when you do it right within your organization, where you then say which factors actually should differentiate pay. Things like location or skill sets or experiences or span of control. Any of these could basically differentiate pay, but factors like gender, race, age, other demographic factors should not impact pay. Then you have to think about your compensation policies. So how does it align with your compensation strategy? Where do you pay? Do you pay at mid-level? Do you pay at like 75% level? Also thinking about how you ensure pay equity with the outside world, so not just internal, but outside world as well, really important as well. Then thinking about all of your talent processes, as we talked about before. So how do you embed pay equity considerations into recruiting processes, into learning and development processes, into mentorship, project opportunities, performance management, promotion criteria, all of that.
The most difficult thing for many managers is to have a meaningful and constructive conversation around pay. Again, technologies exist to support that. Visier certainly plays in that space. It is important for the people managers to have a conversation around an informed database conversation around why specific salaries are being given, how that compares to the market, and how the organization is tackling gender pay equity in the field of transparency. There is really no excuse anymore for organizations today not to tackle the topic of gender pay equity or even pay gaps in particular or overall, because technologies exist to help with that. It is not a simple analysis to do, but it is possible. Organizations are doing it successfully. They are closing pay gaps across the board. We see examples over and over again. Again, there are no excuses anymore that organizations actually can fall back on, because data exists, technology exists, and knowledge and expertise exists. So we're really hoping that this report will spark new thinking, will spark new conversations in organizations across the globe, because it is continuing to be a critical topic. It will become a high priority topic in the next few years, as Kathi pointed out, in the light of pay transparency laws. And so we are hoping that we've been able to provide some food for thought.
I think the good news that we have when we talk with these organizations that have been doing on this journey for years, they say it gets easier and easier. So just get started, basically, is the word of advice that I'd say. Don't be intimidated, don't be scared, because first you'll probably discover a pretty significant gap, but as soon as you get into the rhythm to actually look at root causes, mitigate those root causes, look at the data, of course, constantly monitor that, you get better at that. So it's kind of like building a muscle, and if you don't start training for it, you won't ever build that muscle. So the time to get started is now. Pay equity overall is a huge topic that we've studied significantly at the Josh Bersin Company, and we provide advice and advisory and support and many different tools and resources for companies who might need help to get started with pay equity or on that pay equity journey. So for our corporate members, we have all of these support systems, and we encourage anybody to reach out to us and learn more about becoming a corporate member of the Josh Bersin Company.
You can download this report that's titled The Surprising Truth About Gender Pay Equity on the Visier website. And we would be looking forward to seeing some comments, questions, and feedback from all of you.